Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm fired up to have you join us today because we are going to delve into some things that's really going to help people and help you as you listen. We dedicate this podcast to exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. What's that purpose? Serving others, having that servant's heart. Imagine the impact and difference you'd make when you do that. I get to do it daily. I'm doing it with my guests today. I'm so excited. But imagine that. And also, we dedicate this so our guests can motivate you, inspire you, and educate you on whatever subject that servant heart wraps around. Here's your call to action today, audience. Think about how you're going to serve yourself and serve others today and what impact you create today. Again, the key word is today. Don't wait till tomorrow, next week, next month. Make a difference today. Small, medium, large, it doesn't matter. But if you make one person smile today, your life is going to change. I guarantee it because I get to do that every day. And today's episode is sponsored by Pantheon Alliance. Join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders to create a world-changing thought leader platform to help grow your business. If you need more information on Pantheon, just let me know and I'll get you all that information. Impact, motivation, education, inspiration, difference, great words, but do we live by them? Do we take action? My guest today is taking action at such a large level. Let's welcome to the show. Dana, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
After talking to you before the show, I'm fired up. And the one word that's popping in my head is hope. Why is that so important?
Hope is what we need to know that in the face of all of the difficulty, the struggle, the tragedy, you and I are both in California. I'm in Northern California, you're in San Jose. What's happening down to our brothers and sisters in LA is not separate from us. And they are experiencing devastation. They're experiencing loss and grief at such a deep level that they don't even know yet because it's still going on. My best friend from high school just lost her home in the Pacific Palisades. So the only thing that I can do when I think about her, when I try to communicate, is to say, I'm here. We have each other, and hope is what keeps people going. For generations, this has been the call. When times get tough during the Great Depression, during war, what happens to keep people going? Survivors in Auschwitz, what kept them going is hope. Hope is where it's at. And so that's why I am so passionate about well-being, physical, mental, spiritual health, because that's where hope can thrive. And hope actually is contagious.
That is. And you're an expert on hope. I could tell by how because body language is big. And you talked earlier before the show how surreal and you kind of, funky's the word that comes to my head. You didn't say that, but feel a little different.
Yeah, today's not a normal day.
No, it's not. And tomorrow won't be until this gets taken care of. By the way, audience, even if you listen to this months later, I want you to pray for anybody that's going through a struggle like these people are in Palisades and Pasadena and those areas. But what's one thing is hope is big. Hope is a big part of our lives. What's one thing you tell people how they can find hope?
How you can find hope is imagine yourself like a lighthouse. Inside yourself, you have a light, and you can magnify that light when you're aware of it. Our light is never gone, by the way. When you breathe, you have light. When you have light, you have life. And when you have life, you have hope, right?
Yeah.
And so imagine yourself, like I teach yoga too. So imagine yourself tall like a lighthouse. You lift your heart, and it's this stance that is steady. It is present. It is strong like a mountain, but soft like a feather. And it draws people safely to the shore of the relationship they're having with you. But also they realize they too are the light. They are a lighthouse. They are a beacon. But in the darkness, particularly if you're going through a traumatic time down in LA, for example, right now, it's dark, it's scary, it's on fire. So finding your own light inside yourself when there's wild fire and wind everywhere, that's tough. But if you and me, Steve, today, just us, but audience, please join us by imagining yourself as a lighthouse, a light within you that you can draw to the shores of your own being. Hope for others that are lost in the darkness, they too will remember that what they seek is within them.
Yeah.
So we just are the reminder.
Yeah, and this should be daily if possible. Hope is definitely a great component to servant leadership, servant heart. Talk about that, what that looks like to you.
So for me, it's a very broad topic. It's very specific to individuals, to individual lives, personalities, careers, ways of being. I'm a mom. I'm a nonprofit leader. I am a yoga mindfulness teacher. I work with marginalized communities. And being the hope as a servant leader looks like turning my gifts out into the world through personal practice. I don't teach what I don't wrestle with. I don't share what I don't believe. My values are my guidepost. So health and family and love and freedom and purpose guide my every move, my every breath in my life. So I teach yoga and mindfulness to firefighters. I am the executive director of a nonprofit called Tell My Story, and we work with youth mental health. And our mission is to help parents, but anybody that interacts with young people to take charge and own their mental health like they do their physical health. So if you're a business leader, for example, you have employees and your employees have children, your employees have families, your employees, have nieces and nephews. We try to help people get resourced to know about well-being. And you can then be a pillar, that lighthouse of hope for another. And so we create events and digital resources to offer freely. We have no charge for what we do. Our documentary films, our first one's called What I Wish My Parents Knew. We bring that into schools, houses of worship, businesses, communities, community centers, boys and girls clubs, you name it, across the nation, to listen to young people say what their struggle is, why they didn't reach out for help, and then on the other side, where they are. What was their hope? What got them to where they are? And so there's so much to say there, but how I show up every day as a teacher, as a leader, but also more importantly, just as a human being like everybody else, I wake up and take a breath and say, thank you for life. And I take a 40-minute meditation every morning. And it's a gift that I can give myself because I can give it to the world. And I get quiet inside myself and I lay my troubles down. My son turned me on to a book called Two Chairs, and he's like, Mom, read this book. And he's like, you get to have a conversation with your higher power, like whatever you believe is bigger than yourself. He uses the word God. And so he's like, talk to God and tell God your problems. This book lines it up for you. So every day I sit down, I was like, buddy, I don't use God as much as you do, but that's cool. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to try this. Every day I start my day having a conversation with, okay, thank you for life. And this is what's on my mind and my heart. Help me see, notice, learn, understand, gain wisdom to be in the world in the most serving manner, and also for myself, a joyful manner, because life shouldn't just be tolerated. It should be vital and impactful. And so I ask for both of those things. I ask for guidance and I stay really quiet and I have to listen. Because like I said, we all have a light inside of us. It may feel like non-existent, but we all have a voice in us to listen to. And so I get really quiet and really still to see what rises up. And I'm always met with small or big, a next step or a revelation to what I'm struggling with, or a little breadcrumb on the trail toward solving this problem within myself or within my work or within the world. So that's how I show up. That's how I start my day as a servant leader. And then as, a voice in the world, I do a lot of different teachings and leadings, and I run events. And it's just very exciting to be able to talk about a difficult topic on a regular basis and ground it in hope and help people leave, an event or a phone call or a podcast or whatever, feeling, my hope is, remarkably better. But even if it's just one iota better, I feel like my life has been worth it that day.
Yeah, 1% is just as good as 10% better. It's
Absolutely.
better. You've got me so fired up. I want to run through a wall right now here. I want to run through that wall in my office
Oh, wow.
because so much
Go gentle
hope
on yourself.
well, yeah, well, it's going to be a transparent wall, but
Cool.
and that's probably a sports phrase of my coach. Hey, run through a wall for your team things because the hope you just gave us. And honest, I'm gonna bring this back. When you take a breath, you have light. I've never heard that. I wrote it down. That's powerful and true and authentic and real. You told stories before we started this podcast. I did that purposely. It's powerful. Why do you think Tell My Story is so good? It's so powerful for young people?
So Tell My Story was founded on a very tragic note. My business partner and my friend Jason Reed lost his son to suicide at the age of 14, 5 years ago. And he turned tragedy into hope for so many. And that's what I get to carry the torch with and for. And, I have had many in my life, and my kids have lost friends to suicide. It's just, it's a very, it's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart and into my everyday life. And what I've found, being a human being on the path, the thing that heals us is each other. That's all we have. And if we are isolated and siloed and individual, that's where the pain, the shame, the fear, the grief just festers, and it doesn't help. And that's where problems grow. They grow in the dark. So we bring them to the light, and share what's going on. Find somebody to talk to. And we know that telling story is what heals people, because it joins their voice to have them know that they, in their struggle, they're seen, they're validated, and then they're held in hope and in love. And telling story is an age-old, sit around by the fire, outside, in early community cultures, now around a hearth. We have houses of worship that people go to. We have yoga community centers, things like that. But even just at a coffee with a friend, sharing your story, sharing what's on your heart is what heals us. And so I invite people. That's why I love this work. We're a digital, media online platform. We make documentary films, we make music videos, we do so many different things, but it's all telling story. And story is what draws people together. We've got story, we've got breath, we've got food and music. Like, those are the common denominators of life. And Tell My Story really does what we say we do. And I do believe that that heals people, and that changes the world one conversation at a time.
Tragic events can turn to hope, which you just outlined there, which is so powerful. Yeah, it's your grieve, all that you do. I love that, because that's hope on top of hope. This tragic event happened in fire in Palisades, but something hope will come out of it.
Absolutely.
Not today, not tomorrow, but that's what I love. You're so positive. That's what a servant heart is passing positivity. Somebody comes to you, Dana, and people have come to me and said, I don't know my story. What do you tell them?
There's a couple things that you can ask people. People aren't going to tell you what they're not ready to share. So you can just say, I'm here to listen. Just tell me what do you love? Or what do you like a little bit? Invite people to the lower hanging fruit conversations, because just getting people talking kind of warms them up. Like, so in yoga, for example, I wouldn't have people do a full back bend at first, right? You take a deep breath, you move your body, you warm up a relationship. You also warm up a relationship with yourself. to be able to know that your story is valuable. Let me tell you, I know brilliant people that are too far on the side of humble because they're like, I don't want to talk about myself. I don't really have anything to share. Big or small, we all are valuable and we all do have a story to tell. So if somebody is like not wanting to talk with you, just, read the room, first of all. Like you got to know who you're talking to, what the situation is, right? But then you can ask them questions. And before you even ask them a simple question, look them in the eye, smile, have your body energy be present, and like your feet turn toward them so they know that you're giving them your full attention. And that over time allows people to feel more comfortable. It allows them to feel connected to you emotionally, because I think there's a culture that I think, Steve, is happening right now, which is kind of like a vulnerability that doesn't feel authentic. Like, be vulnerable. That's like the big buzzword or whatever. And I love Brene Brown. Her culture of vulnerability is cool. But like, not everybody deserves to hear your story. And you don't have to give everybody the details, but give the people that you trust, what you're ready to share. And then once you find your voice, you start to understand yourself better. So if you don't know your story, you have to just start by asking yourself, who am I? And maybe, what do I like? What are the simple questions? Like, what's not going right? Where do I need help? What's something that has, been hurtful in the past? What is something that has been helpful in the past? Like questions that start to prime the pump for reflection. And then you start to piece together the puzzle of your own life. And the guy who wrote Body Keeps the Score, what is his last name? Anyways, he says talk therapy is about putting the pieces together of your own story so you can sort it out. So you wouldn't tell everybody your story like you would your therapist necessarily, but you can tell your journal. So there's different ways to tell your story that are appropriate to where you are on your journey individually, if you're on a healing journey, and then also where you are on the journey with the person that you're relating to, or if you're like going to AA or group therapy or something like that, right? It all becomes more apparent as the more you talk, the better you speak, and the safer you feel within inside yourself to share. So, it's a tough one. And I think the only answer I would say is everybody has a story to tell. You are valuable and you have life and you have light, and you just get them to see that and then watch the floodgates of the heart open. I'm sure you see that as a podcaster all the time, right?
Yeah. You cry, you laugh, all those emotions come out, and overtelling happens too. And I'm glad you said that. Just I don't need the whole story, just the cliff notes, like people will throw out there, but have that story. That's such a powerful tool. And I have a principle in business that fits here so well: ask, shut up, listen, and ask. And I say shut up and listen because a lot of times you could talk to somebody that has a story that's very tragic. You shut up, but you don't listen. You come back and they tell you about a suicide, and they go, "Hey, it's too bad that you robbed the bank." Because I've heard stories. I've heard people talk like that. They don't listen. I think that would be important too when people are telling the story. You want to learn about their story. Is ask and shut up and let them tell you at their own pace. I love this. Love, love, love. You're an angel. I love it.
Aww.
The other side of this, though, because we're dealing with children and kids, is the parent story.
Yeah.
How's that fit in?
Well, it's very interesting because over the course of the last 2 years that I've been with Jay and Tell My Story, we've screened our documentary film over 125, 50 times at this point. And so we've met in person and on Zoom and in many different capacities. Youth and youth screenings, parents and parent screenings, and then conversations with both separately. Together is harder because, neither side really wants to speak in front of the other.
Yeah.
But the common denominator that I've found is kids don't want to talk to their parents because they don't want to be a burden. That's what they say. Their parents are stressed. They're working multiple jobs. They don't want to bring anything else to them because they feel like their parents are, just kind of getting by. And parents, as a common denominator say, I don't know how to get my kids to talk to me. So we have two sides causing the same, they both want the same thing, but they keep getting pushed further and further apart because they can't figure out how to come together. So what Jason and I did, we found a bridge. We're like, we need to create that bridge back together. So one resource that we created to help foster communication, because in general, I'm speaking in broad strokes now, kids are much more versed in mental health and communication around depression, anxiety, all the things that kick in that than their parents are. Because, a lot of parents were raised like, don't cry, don't air our secrets, like shut down, just, power through, or, things like, there's a lot, and we didn't have the language necessarily, not all parents. So we created a card game. It's called the Tell My Story card game. And there's 100 communication questions that range from super easy questions that just open people, like we were talking about earlier, soften them, get their hearts a little engaged, get their minds speaking through their hearts. Then they get a little bit, more, they get a greater depth over time. And it is a vehicle for parents and kids to come together around questions that they never would have imagined asking. Like, what was your favorite, comfort food as a child? Or what are you most proud of right now that I don't know about? Things like that. How can I relate to you better when you come home after school? Things like that. Because most of the time, parents will say to their kids after school, do you have kids, Steve? I don't know this about you.
I don't know. I have
Okay.
stepkids, but they're
Oh, okay,
still
cool. So imagine,
works.
they're in the car. How was your day? Fine. Do you have any homework? Yeah, a lot. Are you hungry? Okay. What time's practice? And then, then that's the communication. And so the parents, and I get that. I have kids. I understand that. So there's no shame or shade here. This is what we created is to help, buoy the conversation, to say we can make it a little easier, because you ask a better question, you get a better reality, right? Better questions create a better connection. So parents right now are struggling because what is king, queen ruling is attention. We want people's attention. And the kids' attention is divided in a lot of ways right now on social media, school, friends, whatever. And parents are trying everything they can, like a duck paddling underwater, to get their kids' attention, to say, I see you, please talk to me. But they don't know how to do that either. Because if we're being honest, being human right now is not easy. And all of us struggle, because our mental health is a daily practice, like our physical health is a daily practice. And so we're all just trying to figure this out together. We adults are supposed to have it together more.
Yeah.
And, we're trying.
That's all you can do. We're coming to the end here, and I'd love to have you come back for part 2. There's more to this story that you need to tell. How did I segue that? Pretty good, host.
Always. Good job.
Because I have a lot of parents listening. I know you've raised their ears with all that you're saying. What's one tip you can give them, a resource to help them navigate this a little better?
To navigate which?
Their story with their child and bridging that gap that's happening.
I would say meet them with your own vulnerability. Like, share your own heart. Share, especially, oh dear goodness, when you screw up as a parent, because you do multiple times a day, I do too. That's what happens. Own it. Tell your kids you're sorry, and tell them how you're going to do it better, and say, how do you feel? Ask about how they feel, and not just, how was your day at school? Oh, I'm good. How do you feel? Do you feel better than yesterday? Yeah, I'm okay. Ask deeper questions, leading questions that can draw them out. So it's like you said, like ask and listen, ask and listen. Find ways, gentle ways, of course, and appropriate ways. Like if they're tired, if it's in the morning, if they're hungry. No, those are not good times. And their times, particularly if you have middle schoolers or high schoolers, their timing and our timing are not our favorites, because they want to be up, talking at 10 p.m. and we'd rather be reading a book in bed at 10 p.m. or something like that. And so like just knowing that you have to shelve yourself for a minute and shine all your attention on them. And even if it's just parents, hear me. 5 minutes a day, 1 minute a day. Give them your full attention and presence. That is gold.
Yeah. Powerful, powerful. You're a blessing. Oh my gosh. And Jason, blessing, taking tragedy and building something. Let's end with some fun because it was pretty serious, which is important. Let's do a little improv. So I've got a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. Obviously, you're going to sit in one of the chairs. The 3 empty chairs, who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would they be invited? And I think the most important thing is, what food are you ordering?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I love everything that's like fresh and alive and generative nutrient wise, but also creativity wise. So I would go to probably some like Middle Eastern type of restaurant. I love anything that's like a grain or a lentil or, like a stew, things like that. And I would invite, this is a beautiful question. Because there's so many people that I admire and so many people that I value. But what I'm doing in my head right now is mental calculus of how to
Yes.
get those 3 people to mix to make the biggest impact. Somebody that I find very important that I'm very fascinated with is Vivek Murthy, and he's the Surgeon General of the United States for like another week and a half. And he was with Obama all the way through and then came back with Biden after the pause between Obama and Biden. And he helps shape policy in our nation. For his number 1 priority is youth mental health. And so, I mean, yes, factual data about science and health, that's up there too. But the top 2 are facts and youth mental health. And so I would love to have him at the table because he is big in story and he wrote a book called Together just before pandemic happened. And it was like a foretelling of what was to come. Like it took the isolation and loneliness epidemic, but then it was like this oracle of like what pandemic exacerbated and, really shone the light of awareness on. So I would want him at the table for sure. My grandmother, I say this only because she's one of 12. She had 8 kids of her own. She's passed on about, I don't know, 8 years now, and I miss her every day. And I could cry right now because she came to me in a dream a couple days ago, and I feel like she has something to speak through me. And I would love to see her. She worked very deeply with the Catholic Church. She was a devoted person to her faith and to her family to elevate faith, family, food, and community. And she did it all with 0 money at 5 foot tall, matriarch of the family. My grandfather, I love him, funniest man. He was in the military. He had a drinking problem, so that we had a lot of like family dynamics. And my grandmother was the rock. And so she could help me see through my own history how to move forward. And then that the third chair, one of my really good friends from childhood is a female entrepreneur that's done a really powerful job in the world, and her name is Sarah Blakely. And I would love her to be at this table in this conversation, not only because she's
Yeah.
a friend and a woman that I admire and love, but she also has kids of her own. She has 4 children, and creating legacy and future is very important to her. And I think the melding of the conversation, because Sarah gets the matriarchal lineage, because her grandmother and her mother are very integral in her life, as mine are, and then blend that with a political policy change maker at the national level, that would be, for me, like the mind, the heart, and the body all together around one delicious meal that can metabolize into hope for all, light and change. Yeah. So
Hope, light, and
that
faith.
would make me so excited. Can we make that happen?
Yeah, I'm thinking we got to. I love Sarah Blakely. I follow her, and yeah, they're all great ones, but that really resonates with me from the entrepreneur stand. People are listening, going, "Oh my God, I got to talk to Dana." How can they find you, connect with you?
So the best way through Tell My Story is simply to reach out at Dana, DANA, at tellmystory.org. That's the easiest way.
Beautiful. And thank you again, Dana. I can't wait to have you back. We'll bring her back. I know some of you are like clapping at, because you should be, that we need to have her back because there's a lot here to unpack, and we just got a bit piece of it, and we're going to get more. The call to action at the end here, audience, is subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's not for what you think. Yeah, I got 9,000 subscribers, whatever that is. That's great. And I love all my subscribers. But here's the power of a podcast. Not a lot of people talk about it, is a gift. So you're listening and you're going, I'm dealing with mental health with my young children, or you know somebody that is, you take this link after you've listened to it and you share it with them. Go, I just listened to Dana. I think you'd resonate with her. I think this could help you. And they do, and they reach out to Dana, and Dana helps her, whether she helps a nonprofit, whatever, and changes her life. We just came out of Christmas. We had some great gifts. To me, that's the best gift in the world. That's a spiritual gift. That's a gift we can give. That's a servant heart's gift. So use the podcast that way. Any of my podcast or other podcasts, same way. Share those as gifts. It'll resonate with people, and it really will be a way to motivate, inspire, and educate people. And comment on the YouTube channel. If it's for Dana, I will make sure she gets the comments. If it's for the podcast, hey, if it's a critique, I'd love to hear it, because me and Dana want this to be the best podcast, because it's all about you guys and girls for motivation, inspiration, and education. With that all being said, me and Dana want to thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.